Good evening. Good evening. Welcome today to the Columbus Police Department's Active Shooters Seminar. I am so pleased to see so many to come out on Wednesday night. I'm really happy. When we started getting calls in, we had booked the community room downstairs, and I said, that is not going to be large enough, so we're going to have to use the chamber. So we want to welcome you for coming tonight, and we have an interesting program for you. We hope that you'll be able to gain some information from us to take back to your church and to your parishioners. But before we start off, we need to start off with a prayer, and I've asked Reverend Melvin Perry, to give us a prayer.
Let us bow. Eternal God, our Father, which art in heaven, we are just so grateful to be counted amongst the living, the Heavenly Father. So grateful, the Heavenly Father, to be a part of the body of Christ Church. So grateful, the Heavenly Father, for the opportunity to assemble ourselves here in this place for this occasion, the Heavenly Father. We thank you for the leadership of this city, for our police chief and his administrative staff and all of the officers under their command, the Heavenly Father, and for their interest, Father God, in being proactive and assisting the churches, Father God, in these perilous times. We just want to say that we look forward to the day when all nations, people of various creeds and colors, Father God, would surrender and be under your reign. But until then, Father God, we know we must be vigilant, and we must be sober, and we must be watchful. And again, we just pray your blessing upon this setting this evening, that the information that will be shared will be a benefit to Heavenly Father. And hopefully, Father God, we do not have to put it to use, but it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. And again, we just want to say thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. We have greetings now from our police chief.
We have a few more chairs up front. You may have to come up and see where they are to have a seat. We're hoping that we don't run out of room, but we may as far as the seating.
I got some additional chairs outside.
Come on in, man. Come on in. First of all, I want to greet you and thank you for being with us tonight. This is a common concern within our community as well as other communities that neighbor us and is around us. You know, you would think that safety in churches, safety in schools, safety in shopping centers, safety in grocery stores are commonplace. I mean, you would expect it that if you drop your children off at a movie theater, that if you drop them off at Sunday school, if you drop them off at the shopping center, that when you got back they would be safe. Or at a time when they're out of your presence or even with you, they would be safe. But it's a different world. It's a different society. We're dealing with a lot of mental illness along the way, a lot more as the time progresses. It's come now to where law enforcement actually has to train on a very regular basis to recognize individuals with mental handicaps. And it's expected of our citizens, for our law enforcement, to make sure that we document and receive this training when we're dealing with individuals on the streets in Columbus, Georgia, or in any other neighborhood, any other community. You turn on the TV on a regular basis and you see where large numbers of individuals have been killed, and then you start asking why, or you start looking for a reason. A lot of that goes back to mental illness. Some of it is just downright mean individuals that's walking our streets and our communities. It's hard to recognize these individuals when you walk up and you're looking at them face to face. It's hard to know exactly what their interests, concerns, or even hatreds are. We, at the Columbus Police Department, we break down every incident. Anytime there's a major incident anywhere in the United States, anytime that there's an incident in a school, a church, a shopping center, we break it down with the staff, with our training division, and say, what could those officers, if anything, could they have done differently? We research it, we follow it through media, through law enforcement sources, and then we put a plan of action in place if it were to happen, and hopefully never will, in Columbus, Georgia. This is something that we're extremely concerned about. Major Wright, we asked Major Wright to sit down, get with the local churches, and see what we could do to bring everyone's attention and give them advice as to what they can do if it ever happens in an area where they're present. We have what we call a pastor's police academy that we teach with the police department. We hold 2 a year. And during that time, we talk about what congregations can do when congregations come together, how they can protect each other, how they can protect their community if they're in fact in that community and they recognize things. What we talk about tonight is just pointing everyone in the right direction. It has to come with training. You're going to have to talk with your individuals in your churches, in your congregation, and you may not want to hear it, but it may be necessary for individuals in your congregations to be trained in the use of firearms. It's up to the church. Georgia law allows firearms in churches at the discretion of the governing body. The governing body being the pastor, being the deacons, being your individuals in your churches or congregations that actually make decisions. We'll hit on some of that here tonight. This is very important to us because we're responding to you at any call that we may have, and we're going to have to enter quickly. And once we enter and into an area quickly, and you have an individual standing there with a weapon, then when we're responding, unless we have proper information through the 911 center to the officers, the only thing we're going to see is an individual standing there with a gun. We want to protect our citizens. We don't want hatred in our community. We don't want individuals in our community that are walking around with weapons to do harm to people. You're convenient. Most of them don't go out and look for one person at a time. That very seldom ever happens. But if you have a gathering, whether that's on the sidewalks downtown, the sidewalks in New York City, a church gathering, congregation, block party for your children or our children, whether it's a shopping center, whether it's a movie theater, whether it's a grocery store, that's convenient. That's a convenient gathering for someone that wants to do you, your family, and even the police harm. There have been people that have gone to actual police departments and police precincts just to kill people. These are the things that we train for, that we're aware of. Major Wright has done outstanding with this. Lieutenant Tim Wynn is our director of training at the police department. He trains our people on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a yearly basis for certification and accreditation, and he will do an outstanding job here tonight. We would like to have participation from you. We have mics in the center aisles. If you have questions, raise your hand or make your way to one of those to microphones when it's open for questions. And whatever you have, we're open. We're open. Whatever you want to come up with, whatever you want to ask, we're going to answer it to the best of our knowledge. If there's anything at the end of this that you feel like we did not cover or that we could better cover, be sure and let us know. But I appreciate you being here tonight. We're all one family. We're all Columbus, Georgia, and it's Columbus strong. We want to make sure that if someone needs help, we're here to help each other. So thank you.
Why are we here tonight? We must protect our worship area. We must protect it. I'm going to introduce several of the presenters that we have tonight, and also I have some people in the audience that will be answering some questions. I want to start off with our District Attorney, Al Whitaker. We have a representative here from the from the Fire Department, Lieutenant Shores. He's in the back. And our presenters tonight would be Corporal Travis Spencer from the Crime Prevention, and he's going to come out, and you received a brochure. He's going to go through it. I know some of these things are common sense terms, but he's going to talk a little bit about it and tell you some things you need to know about those issues. And then we're going to have Randy Keel. He's going to talk to you about a camera system, and he'll be up for a second. And then I'll come back and introduce you to the speaker that will be talking to you tonight about the active shooter course. So, Randy. Thank you, Travis.
Testing. Oh, it's loud. I said I needed a mic, but it said we're recording this, so I had to have a mic, so I hope I won't be too loud. I grew up in a church, so it's a common phrase I heard a lot of times. When the pastor got ready to speak, he would say, "I'm not going to be before you long." I intend to keep that promise. Now, everybody got a flyer, a pamphlet. I'm going to go ahead and bring your attention to one thing, because I don't want anybody whispering about it while I'm speaking. There are 2 number 8s. So, my mistake, spell check does not check number count. So I did put 2 number 8s. So, go ahead and put it out there. All right. You get the slides on the screen. Just go ahead and let you know who I am. Corporal Spencer. I am with the Crime Prevention Unit. Officers of my unit are out here. They were guiding you in. They're at the front table. They were bringing in chairs. We mainly do community relations, go to the schools, teach there, teach the GREAT program, and events like this. That is our number up there. If you have questions, even after tonight, if you have questions, that is our number. It's also on the back of the pamphlet. So keep that in mind. All right. Everybody has a pamphlet. All the information is in there. I am not going to read the pamphlet to you. You can do that at your own leisure. But I am going to point out a few things. These are some ideas you might want to implement. Not all of them are going to be good for every situation. You might want to take a few here or there. You might not take any of them, but just some ideas. The things that we fear the most, the saying that I use is, the things we fear the most happen the least. They happen, but they happen the least. Now hold up. The things we fear the most, I fear flying cockroaches. So that happens a lot. The crimes we fear the most happen the least. But at the same time, the first step here is having a plan. What are you going to do when these kind of things happen? So that's the first step, is having a plan. As a church, you plan for everything, all kinds of anniversaries and revivals and everything else. There needs to be a plan in place for safety. So that's the first step. That's the logical step. Have a plan. Now, on the front, on the side here, it says, what would you do? WWYD. Y'all may know that from the WWJD. What would Jesus do? But in this right here, you got to develop a team. Get some people together, some members, some volunteers who are willing to come together and protect the church, protect the body, protect the building. Got to get people together who want to do that. Now, what that involves is also considering what would you do. As officers, we're trained to do this already. We think, when we're at a red light, we're thinking, if this and this were to happen, what would I do? It's kind of like muscle memory. So if something does happen, you ain't got to wonder what you're going to do. You've already thought it through several times, okay? So develop a church security team, get some volunteers and some members who are willing to participate. Almost every church has prior military members, current military, current law enforcement. Those are some folks you might want to consider for your team. All kinds of training. One church I visited, they had a psychology major, somebody who could read somebody just by looking at them and get some signals off of them and say, hey, you might want to watch this person. They look a bit on edge. So all kinds of skills come into place here, but develop a team. Okay, number 3, training. As the chief already said, Lieutenant Wynn trains us very well. We get trained a lot. Training has to continue to progress. Things happen all the time. You got to stay up to date on what's going on. But you got to train at least monthly. Get your volunteers and your members together who are involved in your team and train. Once again, going back to that muscle memory. We've trained about this. We did it. You trained 6 months ago. 8 months later, you don't forgot about it. Train monthly. Y'all remember back in school, the tornado drill. We are never going to forget that. Getting out in the hallway, getting down your knees, tucking your head, all that kind of stuff. You got to train. My worst example is going on a cruise. You been on a cruise? That's the worst part of the whole cruise. You got to do the safety thing in the beginning. 2 hours almost of having the life vest on. But you got to do that. You got to train. So when it does happen, you're ready to go. So you got to do some training. Hours of operation. Plainly state what time your church is going to be open. And then when it's not open, it's locked. When it's closed, it's locked, it's shut down. When you have volunteers and members there, don't have a few of them here, a few of them there. We've seen that most of these active shooter situations, it's been at times where it ain't the full congregation there. It's just a handful here, Bible study, some kind of meeting going on. Now, there have been a few that have been during service, but a number this large, nah, he ain't going to try that. But a Bible study, a little more likely. So, y'all's operation, make sure you don't have just a few folks there. Even when it's a Bible study, part of that team needs to be on site. Needs to be volunteers. Hey, we have a Bible study on Wednesday. Which one of y'all can be here on Wednesday to help secure the church? Volunteers, okay? Our operation. Now that ties in with the keyed entrances. I noticed here at this building, even right here, lock on the outside, push on the inside. The church that I attend, once service starts, they lock the doors. Folks want to get in, there's somebody manning that door. As you walk up, we see you, hey, how you doing? Push the door open, come on in. If folks need to get out, they can get out. There's not going to be any situation to be locked in. But the controlled access, keyed entrances, blind spots, you can use a key card for members or the pastor or the deacons, give a key card to get in, but you got to control your entrances. If nothing else, have somebody manning that entrance, so when somebody approaches that door, hey, how you doing? Come on in. But I would suggest locking them and have them keyed some kind of way. Push locks or push doors, the best kind. Okay. There you go. Security cameras. Now, I'm not going to speak too long about security cameras. Sergeant Kill is going to speak to you more about that. But security cameras are a good way of putting folks at ease, putting members' minds at ease. I like to think about Walmart. Every time you go to Walmart, you get into a certain aisle. For me, it's the baby aisle. I'm getting diapers. Screen comes on and says, we're recording you. I'm getting diapers. They cost so much, they know you might want to steal them. So I always smile. Hey, yeah. I give them a sad face because I'm going broke from all these diapers I'm buying. But that's a good way of having your security system motion detected. When that door comes open, hey, have a screen that says, hey, recording. So when that person comes in, oh, I'm on camera. Yeah. You know, good idea. But he's going to speak more about that, and he gave y'all some flyers with a whole bunch of information to go over at a later time. Lockdown procedure. if something were to happen. Now, Lieutenant Wynn's going to speak more about if something does happen. But in this part here, just the lockdown procedure, a lot of churches have a children's ministry, and it's separate from the main congregation. If something were to happen, this lockdown procedure needs to be some kind of procedure in place to secure the most precious part of your congregation, that's the children. Somebody has to be ready to, if something's going down over here in the main sanctuary, lock this part down, get the kids safe. A lot of times the children's area has a way to get out. And we're going to cover that again, the 3 steps. But if you can get the kids on out, get them on out there. Get out of the situation. But have a lockdown procedure in place. If you have to go ahead and bunker down, have that idea already out there as well. Don't just wait till it happens and say, okay, now we're going to go and lock a door here or there. You go in this room, it has 5 entrances, not a good place to bunker down at. You got to cover all those entrances. We're moving through it pretty good. Communication. Communication. You got to communicate with your congregation and let them know why you have a plan, number one, and then what the plan is. And you don't tell them all the information. That's for the security team. Because you might have somebody in your congregation that might want to do something 10 months from now. You don't tell them everything, but let them know we do have a plan in place to handle this if something does happen. We are ready. If something does happen, we're ready. Okay? Communication also, years ago, when I worked at Disney, we had a way of communicating when there was a person that needed some extra attention in the store. If they were a regular person coming in, we called them a guest. If they were going to be a little difficult, we called them a customer. So as I pass you off to the next person, I would say, hey, Greg, this customer here needs some assistance. And that lets you know, this person here needs some assistance. Same thing goes for church. Now, you might have your own terminology, but the security team will know, hey, this person here, we got a new guest here. Keep an eye on them, okay? So communication is key. Having little earphones in, and having a radio, two-way radio, because churches can be big, some are small, but even a small church, if you're up here in the front, you see something, getting, Mike's attention in the back, Mike. Communication. Have a little thing you can talk to. Hey, watch that guy in the back right there, red jacket. Okay, so communication, very important. Now, this is when we get into those 2 number 8s. Yeah, we got 2 number 8s here. Prayer. Now, we all know prayer is powerful, very important. But at the same time, we also know that while faith is a good thing, faith without works is what? Yeah. So you can have all the faith in the world, but if you ain't got a plan in place, you're going to be okay. So, yeah, use your prayer team to secure the church, to cover the church. But at the same time, we got to use some wisdom, have a plan in place, and be ready to act and work when that time comes, if it does come. Members got to put in some work. You can't just come in there and sit down and get fed and not do any work. You're going to have some volunteers and some members are going to have to be working in the church. So prayer, I don't want to put it last, but put it next to last. But it's very important. The last thing is good customer service. Now, I've worked in several retail places before I became an officer. Good customer service, a lot of these things translate back over to the church because we do have to service the people who come to our location. But what I mean by that is greet somebody with a smile. Everybody who comes in, you greet them. Nobody goes unnoticed. If it's a new visitor, make sure you have a greeter to go ahead and engage them. A person that's there to do harm does not want to be engaged by that person, this person, this person. We have layers at the church I attend. There's a person out in the parking lot that's going to see you when you come in. They're going to help park you. You don't need help, but they're going to help park you. That's just another layer of security. Okay, we got a customer pulling in. They can relay that message already, right in the parking lot, relay a customer coming in. Okay, we have certain people we already got to look out for, cars and estranged spouses and whatnot. When they come in, that first layer sees them right there. They don't get to the front door and then we finally see them. In the parking lot, we already know they're here. So that's one thing, having layers. Good customer service, parking lot. Get up to the door. Somebody's there at the door to greet them. How you doing? Look them in the eye. I see you. These guys are coming to do damage. They don't want to be noticed. They don't want to be recognized. They want to go in there, cowardly. Get in, do what they got to do, and get out. All these eyes on them, And we got a new visitor here. Sir, go ahead and stand up. Good customer service. No. Stand up. Everybody look at the customer. So good customer service. If you see something going on, all the eyes and the ears of the church, the security team is working. They're working. They're giving that person good customer service. Who knows? That good customer service might even change their mind. They might say, you know what, I came to do something, but y'all just too nice. I got to go somewhere else. I go to another church where they're going to sit there and snub nose at me and look down on me. Now I'm going to get them. So good customer service might prevent a lot of things from happening in the first place. All right? Now, if you're paying attention to your pamphlet, that's the last topic I have. So I hope I kept my promise and not being before you too long. All right? We will have time for questions at the end, but at this time, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Sergeant Keel. Thank you. Sarge, this is a live mic, so don't say anything right now. Okay. Boy, I'm so hot, man. Okay. Oh, boy.
Testing. Oh, yep, it works, right? Everybody hear me? All right. How's everybody tonight? All right. My name's Randy Keel. I'm a sergeant with the Columbus Police Department. I've been, just to let you know a little bit of my background, I've been with the department 35 years. The last 17 years I've been involved in video surveillance, the covert and overt aspects of it, and some video enhancement. So I have a lot of knowledge about the video type systems that they're selling on in the box stores, and basically any type of video systems from the low end to the high end. What I want to do tonight is just give you a kind of little overview of video systems. I know everybody always asks me what kind of video system should I get from a house, from a business, and they always come up with, well, this is what Sam's has, this is what Best Buy has, is this good? Because I know there's an amount of money, you want to spend on it. You have so much money you want to spend on it, and you don't want to spend, an enormous amount of money. But you really don't want to spend a low amount of money because, or say like a $200 system, because you're not going to get what you really want out of it. And well, basically what I'm going to do right now is just tell you some of the terminology and then get into what the systems actually do. And I know I don't have a long time to do this. I've got about a 10-minute block, and I really wanted to show you a video which was done by the FBI. But did everybody get a handout or some of the handouts in the back? All right, well, when you leave here, there's several handouts still available. Get you a handout. There's like 5 different handouts, and the one I really want to emphasize on is this one right here. The FBI is up at the top, so you'll know which one it is. And go to this website, because I was not able to, or wasn't going to be able to play this video. There's a 20-minute video on this page, and if you click that video, it explains. It's like the FBI created like a little short story, basically a little movie. And it explains everything you need to know about what type of video system to get, why you need this, why you don't need this. It's kind of like a scenario of a bomber, and it goes through every step, how they found out what this bomber looked like, how they retrieved the video, and it will, if you watch the video, explain, it gives you the terminology I'm fixing to give you, and you'll understand more about what type of system you might want to buy. There'll be some key phrases there that you will go out and look for when you want to purchase a video system. How many people have a surveillance system in their house right now or the business? Okay, all right, that's a pretty good amount. Does everybody review it on a regular basis to make sure the cameras are working, to see if, a lot of times one of the cameras will go out, so you'll have to do something with it, reboot the system. Does your system reboot, say like once a week, it turns off, turns back on? That's the thing. Those are the things you got to look for, because a lot of these people that have systems like this in businesses, they don't always do that, and then they'll have 10 cameras and only 5 of them will work when they have some type of crime occur, and then we're coming to try to retrieve the video, and the one camera that we need is always the one that's out. So that's a problem. Or the video is just a low resolution that we really can't do anything with the video. So let me just kind of talk to you about certain phrases that you'll kind of come in contact with. VMS. Anybody know what the VMS is? It's video management software. It's basically what runs, say if you have a DVR, it's what runs that system. So if you go to search or you want to blow up one of the videos, the photos, that runs everything. So when it talks about VMS, it's just the software that runs everything. It runs the cameras, it records, does everything for you. Covert and overt, we have covert cameras, which are cameras that you can't see. Overt will be cameras that you can see right here. So that's something to kind of think about when you're in the church environment. Do you want the cameras to be seen, or do you want some of the cameras not be seen? So if somebody's coming up to kind of, commit a crime, you might have some covert cameras. So, if they see the overt cameras, they might destroy those cameras, be able to destroy them. But the covert cameras can look like anything. A smoke detector, a fire alarm. It could be in like a fire alarm right there. You can have a camera in there and it would get the video and no one would know that's a camera. Depth of field is a big issue a lot of times. Depth of field, if I have a camera right here and I'm facing all the way down there now, it's getting this whole area. It's recording the whole area. But the depth of field on this camera may only be from 15 to 25 feet. So what that means is only 15 to 25 feet, you're going to get a good focused picture. The rest of it's just going to be kind of blurry when you try to figure out or blow up that picture and try to identify something or someone. PTZ, pan, tilt, zoom, some of those, it depends. If you have a wide area, maybe a PTZ camera will be good for you. And it pan, tilts, and zooms. It's like one of those dome cameras. And actually, I think these are PTZs right here. They will move. So if you get a good high quality camera like that and you have a large area, you can set it to scan. So what it will do, it'll scan the whole area every so many seconds. And if it sees movement, you can check the motion detection. And if it sees movement, some of these cameras will follow that movement. So if you have a person walking in, say, the front of the business or the sidewalk, it will start tracking that camera. So that's something to look at. And the other thing is hardwire or wireless. I get that asked to me also. And a lot of people like the wireless because wireless is simple to install. You can install a wireless camera on the wall here. The downside to that is, first of all, it's going to have a battery, so you're going to have to remember to replace that battery. If you hardwire a camera, you're going to have power from an outlet or somewhere from a power source, and it'll have continuous power, and you won't have the problem of the wireless. A lot of these wireless cameras, they lose connection sometimes, and once they lose connection, then they're, again, going back to checking your cameras, that camera's not recording on your DVR VMS system. So I always recommend trying to hardwire it. There are places you might want to put a wireless, but there are systems that you can put wireless and hardwired cameras in. So that's kind of an option to think about. But these are things you need to think about and ask the person who's selling the camera. Is it a store? Is it an installer, somebody that installs the system? You need to ask them these questions. I always recommend hardwiring because you don't have a lot of problems with hardwired systems. The hard drive in these systems, when you go to a box store, always read the box and then turn it around and read the fine print in the bottom. Because they sell these systems, this is a high quality system. You can record so much video, 2 weeks of video, a month worth of video. A lot of times the hard drive is not big enough to support that. And if you'll read the fine print, it might be an 8-camera system, but in the fine print it'll tell you only 4 of the cameras can record high quality and the rest of them are going to be low quality. So be sure you look at that and ask those questions. Don't go by what a salesman tells you, because I know if you've dealt with salesmen, sometimes they'll tell me one thing, but when you get the product, it's not what they tell you. And that's what happens with a lot of these systems. Now on the other side, there are some of these cameras that are pretty decent. There's Best Buy sells some cameras that are wireless, but they connect to your router in the house. And there's a good and a bad side to this. Some of them record in the camera, they'll have a card in there, but then what they offer is recording to the cloud. So you'll have an account where it records to the cloud automatically. If it doesn't record to a SD card, it'll record to the cloud. The downside to those are if your power goes out in the house or if your internet goes down, it's not sending that video to the cloud, so you're not going to get that. That's another thing to kind of look out for with the wireless. The hardwired, if you have a battery backup on your system, when the power goes out, it should continuously record. And that's another thing to think about, battery backups on those systems. And again, another thing you need to look into, and it's with the hard drives also, is how long can you save this video? And you know, those boxes, again, will tell you can save it for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, but it's at low resolution. What you want to do is save it at a high resolution. You don't want the low resolution. You want the highest resolution you can save it at, because when we come along, if you have say a person that broke in a building, your house, you get that video, that if you have low resolution, there's nothing we can do with that. I know people watch CSI, they see the show, and they have that magic red button. They push that magic red button, boom, wow, we got a picture from his eye, the person's eyeball, and we're getting a picture off of that. That doesn't happen. I promise you that. I've actually been to Quantico and talked to the people that do this, and they're talking about the FBI, and they had a few choice words about that, and basically they told me, if your video doesn't look good when you're giving it to us, it's going to look the same way when they get done with it. They only can enhance video that's at high quality, and then they can kind of, you know, they can't make it better, but they can zoom in more with that. But the low quality and the video that's just not of good quality, there's nothing we can do with that. And I've gone to many convenience stores that, you know, used to have tapes. They started out with tapes, and then they had DVRs, and I'd get the video, and the video is just awful. And I've had detectives standing over me, waiting for me to enhance that video, and some of them actually said, well, I saw it on CSI, they do it. Well, nah. Okay, and I had that Office Depot button, that red button, said that was easy. I said, push that and let's see how easy it happens. So, but that's something to think about. You got to think about when you buy a system like that, and I know money is an issue, but if you buy something at the low end, you're just buying something that you know something happened. You saw someone walking through, say your business, commit a crime, and leave. And that's all we'll get from that. That's not good evidence. It's just not going to be good for us to enhance. But on that, if you have, say, like 5 cameras, 6 cameras, you can have some of those cameras like that that will cover a large area, and you can see someone walking through. Now, in that path, you put another camera there, a higher quality camera set to the highest quality, and you know that's going to be in the range of where that person would be walking. When they walk by, you'll get a good picture of that person walking by. So that you can enhance. So you can have some low quality picture cameras, but have other cameras that are high quality where you know they're going to pass through both cameras, and this one here is closer and zoomed in, then you're going to get a good picture of that person. So that's something also to think about. But again, in these box store camera systems, they're just created, they create those cameras for a certain price because they know people are going to want to pay $399 compared to $23.99. That's $2,399. But and they gear it to selling it like that, and they put a low quality hard drive in it and low quality cameras. So just kind of keep that in mind when you go to look for a system. Internet. At the church, I would think everybody has internet access, but if you don't, I would look into getting internet access, because on these systems, once you have internet access, you can set up motion detection, and you can square it out. So if you're looking at this whole area, but you have a walkway right here, you can put a little block right there and say, that's what I want to know if somebody comes in this way. So you can have an alert sent to your phone, to your tablet, whichever, that alerts you, say, hey, somebody's here, something's here in this area, and they shouldn't be here. And that goes for inside too, indoors and outdoors. So you can set parameters to where the motion is basically picking that up, and they send a message to you. They can either send an email to you or an SMS. It's just like somebody's texting me. It'll alert me. And I've had them set up like that. Of course, in my line of work, I had them set up all the time, and I had to take some of them off because it would go off all the time. So, but just keep that in mind, that internet access is very important. And also wireless. If you have the internet access and you have a video system, while you're there, have on your phone where you can have alerts set to your phone. If you got wireless, you don't have to go through the internet. You're going through wireless from your phone to the system that you have in the business. You can say if church is going on, you got the doors closed. Somebody approaches from the outside. It will alert you, hey, somebody's there. It could be a good person, bad person. We don't know, but you can look on your phone, pop up the video. Most of these systems, you can bring it up on your phone, on tablet, whichever, and you can see what's going on outside. That's another thing to kind of look out for when you set up these type of systems. Camera size or quality. I recommend nothing lower than a 2 megapixel camera. I really would push a 3.1 megapixel or higher. They're not that high in cost, and you can get some decent ones for about at the 3 megapixel range. So I would go 3 megapixel or bigger. And then when you go, if you want to get one high quality camera, I'd go for about a 5 megapixel. And there's many out there that you can choose from. I'll give you my email address. I don't want to give that out to too many people, but because I know there'll be some emailing me, but I'll be glad to help you. And if I can get some, I'll try to create a page that basic information for whoever wants it, and kind of put that out there to see if that way when you go shopping, you can kind of find out, look at it, and see what you want and what's in your price range. Lighting condition. That's another thing you need to consider. If it's an outside environment or inside, make sure you have lights on outside, or at least motion lights that come on, because when those lights come on, all these cameras have IRs, which are good, but they're not good for the distance of the camera. And all they show is a black and white photo, and a lot of times they're not great. But if you have lights on that pop on, now it'll be in color. So now you know exactly what the person's wearing, and you could get a good identification of his face, or just vehicle type, whichever comes through there. But lighting is real important when you set up these cameras, and location also. So you got to kind of figure out where you want these cameras. Don't just pop them up on a corner. A corner may be fine for one instance, but you may want to put it down, to 50 feet or 60 feet just to get what you want. Okay. I could go on and talk. I'm sorry. I know I'm limited on time, but do I have any questions? Like I say, make sure you get some of the pamphlets, handouts. They got a lot of this information and more that I've got, I've been talking about, and look at that video. The videos were very informative. Thank you.
All right, our next speaker, which is our main speaker, is Lieutenant Tim Wynn. He's been with our department for 30 years. He's worked in the patrol division, the motor unit, and now he's assigned to the training unit. He has taught this active shooter class to over 100 classes. He's talked to outside police agencies. He's also talked with the corporate CB&T, Sonova Security, Carmike, and Nationwide. So tonight, for your active shooter presentation, is Lieutenant Tim Wynn.
Evening. All right. I've taught this class many times before, and 20 years ago, like Major said, been here 30 years with the police department. 25 years ago was unheard of to hear somebody walking into a school, walking into a church, and shooting people sitting as we are right now in a congregation. Unfortunately, when you have things of this nature that happens, you have to adjust, and you have to adjust with society. because it's ever-changing, and unfortunately, if you don't stay ahead of the curve, you get caught behind the curve, so to speak, and that's kind of tragic. The shootings that occurred, we've had many in churches, South Carolina, Arizona, California, Texas. I could not imagine going to church on a Sunday and 23 of my family members being killed, like what had happened out in Texas. I couldn't imagine 23 of my friends, not to say family, friends, how tough that would be to lose 23 friends that I go to church with, because they are my church family, and that's going to hurt just as bad. I mean, it digs when they're out in Texas and I'm here in Georgia sitting there watching this, because I can put myself in that situation and sympathize with everybody that's there. Thank you. But like I said, how many here have a security team or have started developing a security team in your church? Is everybody in here doing that? Great, great. Now, one thing I will say that if you need something, I can offer you a little bit of advice, but make sure you know who your folks that are armed. Make sure they have skills. You don't want somebody going in your church that does not have skills. I've worked security at Cascade Hills Church. I've been on security team there for about 21 years. And we have a pretty good system in place. Trey works there. He's on our security team also. And we have a pretty good plan in place. But you know, I will say one thing. He was talking about the doors. The best way is if you can secure it where they cannot come in after services starts, but make sure the door is not set where people cannot get out. You've got to have a drawbar systems they work outstanding. But these are a few things to think about, and think about the placement of your security team. And we'll talk about this a little bit later in the class, but I'm just trying to touch on a few things. Make sure that you have them properly in place. You put them inside of a sanctuary, and you have them spread out within the sanctuary. If somebody gets through the doors and they breach the front doors of your church, and they do get in there, the first time a shot's going to ring out, I'm telling you, total mayhem's going to break out. I mean, it's not every day we're sitting right here, somebody comes in those doors. I would have a very hard time if I'd have to holler duck, because I could hit them from here, but when everybody stands up and starts moving, now I've got friendlies in the way. I can't do anything. So be mindful of when you're setting your security teams where you put your people. Because if they're in the sanctuary, yes, they're hidden. They don't know who the security guys are. But if they come in the door shooting, I'm telling you, mayhem's going to break out. And the first, you can tell everybody, get down. That's going to be the best thing. Start low crawling, getting out of there, stand up and running. You're a target. But we don't want you to be a target of friendly. So be mindful of where you place your security team, because that could be a detriment to you stopping what's happening. So, you know, and we'll get into some more things here in just a second, but let me move on. All right, there are 3 stages to a disaster response, whether it be fires, active shooters, maybe you have a terrorist attack of some sort, like in New York where they had the terrorists went down the side bicycle trail and killed several people there. You have 3 stages. The first thing, when things happen, most people are in denial. They do not want to accept the fact that that something's going on. Your deliberation, this is where you have to deliberate and think about, okay, what do I do? If you don't already have a predisposed plan in mind, these things, this is where you're going to break down. and we'll get into this a little bit more. And the last one is decisive moment. Denial. Now, how many of you remember back, I guess it's probably been about 10 years ago now, the nightclub in New Jersey that caught on fire? They had a concert going on, and everybody was standing around, and the fire started back behind the band, and they thought it was part of the show. They're still sitting there cutting up, laughing, drinking, having a good old time. And then it starts blazing up the back of the wall, and they're still having a good old time. And not until they saw the band members start unplugging and running did they realize it was really a fire. They were oblivious to the smoke. There were several, you can see in the video, several of the individuals in the place started coughing and choking, and other folks that were drinking were laughing at them because they were choking and coughing. And it never registered, okay, we got a real fire going on here. Well, when they realized, folks started getting stampeded, and I think they lost 32 people in that fire, 34, something like that. But it was because they were in denial stage. They didn't think, okay, there's smoke, that's a burning smell. Some of them probably too inebriated to differentiate, so, and that's unfortunate. But they were in a stage of denial. You can't be in a stage of denial because when you're denying it, you're freezing. And when you freeze, you go into brain lock, and when you go into brain lock, you're a standing target. Has anybody ever heard the old term, cigar store Indian? That's what you are. You're standing there straight up. You remember those old wooden Indians you stand up in the store? That's what winds up happening when you're in a denial stage. You lock up and freeze. Your deliberation. When you get into your deliberation, this is where you have to have a plan in place, because if you do not have a plan in place, when it happens, it's going to happen so fast that you're not going to know what to do. You're going to just sit there and lock. If you have a plan that's set in place where you want to get away from what's happening. Initially, you want to try your best to get away if you can. And you got to have some type of plan in place, predisposed, where if it happens, we're going to do this. If this happens, we're going to do this. And it gives you some type of chance to get away from this. Because if your mind is moving and you're thinking, you have a chance. If you go into brain lock, you have zero chance usually, because you're going to be one of the victims. All right, when you get into your 60 beats per minute, this is your resting rate. 60 beats, we're sitting here, we're talking, we're relaxed, everything's working. When you get to 90 beats per minute, your fine motor skills start to break down. This is where you get, how many of you ever got spooked and you were trying to get in the door, or maybe you had a dog running towards you and you're trying to get in your car, and everything starts pumping a little faster, adrenaline starts running, you start dropping your keys. That's what happens when you get there. You start losing your fine motor skills. When you thread a needle, do you thread it out here or do you thread it in here? That's fine motor skills. You move to get to 120 beats per minute, this is where you get your gross motor skills. Now, one thing that is good here is when you're at this stage, this is where you bleed less. For us, when we talk about having to face something, if it happens, you bleed less in this stage. You are very strong and you are very, very locked in on what you can do. Now, when you get up to 150 to the code white or stress level white, this is where tunnel vision starts kicking in. When we have new officers, we train them. We put them under stress shoots, and we do as much as we can. Never emulate what they're going to deal with on the street. There's no way we can do that in training. But we put them through facsimile machines, our firearms training simulators. We put them through those, and we put them in the most stressful situations we can there. And you'd be surprised how much a video can get somebody geeked up. But I mean, man, they are locked up and locked in, ready to go. Some of them perform really well. Some of them you see them start breaking down and shutting down a little bit. This is why we continue to do this, because we do it on a shoot, don't shoot situation. If you have every training scenario that is a shoot situation, that's not good training. You have to have it where it's on a shoot, don't shoot, because if they go in there every time and know they're going to have to shoot, well, they know what the ultimate answer is going to be, right? So you go in there where you have things where you try to train them that every solution is not with the firearm. It could be one where you come in, talk them down, you de-escalate the situations here. But they're at 150 beats per minute at this point. This is where the tunnel vision kicks in, and they're locked in straight ahead, and then all of a sudden something comes in over here and gets them. We try to get them to start spreading their vision out to keep from getting into a focal point, and you're losing your peripheral vision, so to speak. And we have to really work hard to train new officers for that to happen. Sometimes we have to have old officers that sometimes lock in on it. It just happens. But you got to fight against that, and that's what we train to do, is to fight against that. And the only way you can do that is to prepare yourself for a situation where, what if this happens? What if that happens? When I was out on the street, if I went to a call where there was a shooting, okay, if I pull up, I'm on a motorcycle. I don't have the cover that most of the cars do. Well, that's a false statement I just give you. I would rather have been behind that motorcycle in a gunfight than I would have in a car. Because when you tuck down behind that motorcycle, it's not going to penetrate it. Unless you're doing something you shouldn't be, and that's hiding behind the saddlebags or hiding behind a gas tank. That ain't going to work out too good for you. So those are the things that, if you get down below the motor and you lay that motorcycle over, we've shot it with armor-piercing 223 rounds, and it did not penetrate the motorcycle. So I knew that. And then when I was going to a scene, okay, if this happens, I'm going to lay the motorcycle down, I'm going up under it. I would lay it on the ground and go up under it if someone come out of the yard and started shooting at me. I always thought about, what if this happened or what if that happened? Okay, I got a block wall over here. If this happens, I'm ditching it, jumping behind that block wall. Always had an out and left myself an out where if it happened, what if this happened? Now, don't get me wrong now, I mean, you're going to be skedaddling pretty quick over there. It ain't like you're coming there beating your chest. No, you're going to be running and shagging. So, but you got to have a plan in place where if that happens, tunnel vision don't kick in, you start locking down. Because when you get to code black, you're done. That's what I'm talking about, where you get to brain lock. You're not performing. You're in complete mental shutdown here at 175. And maybe possibly close to a heart attack at that point. So, you know, I mean, I've seen people, have you ever seen anybody, I have trained folks on a motorcycle, and I've seen them, they get so geeked up and so nervous that when they come into a braking exercise, I've got a big line of cones. They're 36 to 40-inch cones. And they got to stop, and hitting them is not what you're supposed to do. But they'll come into this thing, and they go into mental lockdown. They don't even hit the brakes, and it looks like Kool-Aid busting through my cones at the end. You know, hey, Kool-Aid. But that happens. I mean, it's actually scary seeing it on a motorcycle, but you see it in everyday life a lot. When you see, how many of you ever seen somebody that got so, like say their car cut off of them in the middle of the road, and they started trying to get it cranked real quick, so they want to get everybody's way, and they couldn't. And they kept cutting off, and they'd try to put it in gear, and then they'd forget to put it back in neutral, and things just start coming apart on them. It's the same situation here. Keep yourself calm, and there's ways you can do this. Deliberation, our human brain. The human brain is a reflective, now it's a slow-thinking brain a lot of times unless you condition it. It's a thinking brain, though, and you're rational. But it has to be conditioned a lot of times to deal with stress. A lot of times it does not deal with stress really good. Now your lizard brain over here, how many of you have ever tried to catch a lizard? I mean, would you say that we're the king of the food chains? The humans are king of the food chains, right? Well, the lizard ain't. The lizard's got all kind of natural enemies. And you think about it, he's sitting there on a limb, a chameleon trying to change colors, and he sees you way before you see him. And you walk over there and you sneak up, and by the time you reach out, he's on top of the fence over here. Well, they have a reflective brain that is very fast moving, and they're always alert and they always have an out. The reason they always have an out because they have natural enemies that are always trying to kill them. They don't have the luxury of, well, let me think of another one than that one. I won't use that. They don't have the luxury of falling asleep on the job, so to speak. So, that's the way you've got to program your brain, where it will operate and work like a lizard's brain does. I mean, I know that's kind of a strange example to use, but it works, and it's something that is efficient. It's efficient because it keeps them alive. Well, that's what we're trying to teach you here, is to come up with a plan that, God forbid, something like this happens, you'd be able to survive this. And you've got to condition your brain to do that. Fight, flight, or freeze. These are some things, when you get to a certain point, you got to make a decision. What are you going to do? Deliberation. Remember, calm yourself, combat breathing, tactical breathing. Does anybody know what that is? Somebody tell me who knows what it is? Raise your hand. Tell me what it is. Anybody know what it, tactical breathing? Yes, sir. That's very good. How do you do that? What are we talking about doing here? Breathe in through your nose, hold it at the top. Breathe out through your mouth, hold it at the bottom. While you do this, this will help you shift your emotions, and it'll also start slowing that heart rate down 2 stress levels, maybe 2 colors. If you're at black, it's going to bring you back into the yellow, and hopefully you won't pass out after you get there. Or it's going to bring you from the yellow down to the red. It can drop you 1 to 2 levels on your stress meter. It's going to allow you to think clearer, and oxygen, especially if you are using a firearm, lack of oxygen deprivation makes your hands shake more. It makes your whole body shake more. Why do you think when our officers out here dealing with people, if they're having to fight with somebody, one of the reasons we're doing this is give commands is so they'll stop, it may register and they'll stop doing what they're doing so we can get them in custody with the least amount of force as necessary. What's the second reason why we tell them to give verbal commands? You de-escalate the situation for sure, but it makes them breathe. Because a lot of times when you get into a stressful situation, you think about sometimes when you've been in a fight when you were younger. When you locked up with somebody, you wouldn't breathe. You'd lock up and just strain, but you wouldn't breathe, right? So these are things that we tell them to do is just breathe. It allows you to breathe, and it allows you to think clearer. Allows you to make better decisions, and that's why we do this. All right, we talked about shifting your emotions. Mental scripting. Remember I talked to you about coming up to a call. What if? What would you do? What would I do if this happened? What would I do if that happened? If somebody come in this door and started shooting at this point, and I know what I would do, but I would have to make sure y'all heard what I'm fixing to do. Because if I had to engage, I got to make sure y'all are clear before I can engage, right? So I'm not in the best position if it comes through this door right here. And the reason being is because I have too many friendlies in the way. So make sure in your deliberation also you script what you want to do, make your plan of how you want to make it work, and then you got to practice your plan. Practice your plan, because the first couple of times you go through it, I'm telling you, it's going to look like everybody's got 2 left feet running. Or they got their shoes on backwards or something. It's not going to work out right. It's going to be rough at the edges. But if you continuously work at it, I promise you it's going to get better. And I mean, there is nothing worse to have to sit here and tell you while you're sitting in church, keep your mind moving by somebody coming through the door shooting. Isn't that crazy? That's crazy. I mean, of course, that's not going to be on your mind at that point. But if something did happen what we're trying to do is minimize damage here. And what I mean by that is minimize casualties. Let me tell you something crazy. Let me tell you why you know how many church shootings were in 2016? I could show you a laundry list. It was 18 pages long of shootings and church violence. Let me tell you why you didn't hear nothing about it. You know what it takes to classify as things as an active shooter? Does anybody know? You got to have 4 deaths. 4 deaths. If you don't have 4 deaths, it's not considered an active shooter incident. It's considered workplace violence, whatever. That's why, which I think is insane. I think it's insane because what it does is it gives a false sense of security for the violence that we have toward, and folks, I'm going to be honest with you, and I hope I don't offend anybody by this, but Christians are being attacked right now. I'm just going to come out and say it. Our religion is being attacked, and that's why I'm a crusader. So that's it. And I'll stop there, so I won't go no further. Your decisive moment. Now, what I want you to remember, here's your textbook definition for active shooter. An active shooter event involves one or more persons engaged in killing or attempting to kill multiple people in an area occupied by multiple unrelated individuals. What I want you to take away from this definition, basically what he's trying to do is he's trying to commit mass murder. That's it. That's it in a nutshell. You can say what you want to about a textbook definition. He's coming in there trying to kill as many people as he wants to for whatever stupid idea it is. And most of them are pretty stupid. So and of course, y'all know what they say about opinions, gang. That's my opinion. So, all right, the shooter. He usually has no profile, avenger mindset. No, he's a coward. You come into a church with a high-powered rifle with people in a church with their back turned to you and you start shooting them, no, that's not an avenger, that's a coward. That's my interpretation of them. So, some broadcast it, some don't. If you see somebody that ever broadcasts, threatens somebody to do something, don't pass it off as, oh, he's just talking, he's venting. We don't have that luxury anymore. How many shootings have you seen happen where their friends are going, I didn't think he would do it. I saw it posted, but I didn't think he'd do that. I mean, every time you see that, I mean, that's insanity. If you see somebody posted, hey, you're my buddy, but hey, I go to that church. I can't help you. I'm on at least let you get checked out. You get mad with me later. Just don't come to my house because I got something for you. All right. Your location of attacks. Everybody thinks most of them are in the schools. They're not. Most of them are in your workplace. Most are in the workplace, about 55%. I'm sorry, 45%. Schools are next at about 25, and then you have your outdoors like Las Vegas, outdoor shootings, and then you have your others, which churches, things of this nature. Restaurants, they fall up under there. And the shooter connection, 55% he has a connection with the people he's shooting. The one in, was it Sutherland, Texas, or Sutherland Springs, Texas, or what I did, the last one? He was mad at his mother-in-law because he thought his mother-in-law caused him and his wife to have problems. So he goes in there and shoots up the whole church that she supposedly went to. That was his reasoning for doing this. 23 people from the same family lost their life in that shooting. I think it was 26 total, 23 were some from the same family. 45% he has no connection at all, it's just random. Las Vegas, that was random. Three minutes. What am I talking about here? 3 minutes. That's average our response time. Now let me tell you something. Somebody's in there and they're loaded to bear. That's a long time for somebody to be shooting. That's why we're doing this training, because a lot of times we're not, and we've been fortunate. Y'all realize we've had an active shooter here in Columbus, right? It wasn't classified as one, but it was. It's at Doctors Hospital. Y'all remember that? Doctors Hospital. Of course, it wasn't classified by the federal standards, so it's not considered that. But that's what it was. It was. We had 3 down that one, Chief. We lost 3 in that one. 3 too many. So, you call it what you want. I think that's crazy having but they have reasons for everything. So that's what the Fed says. It's got to be 4 before it's considered. 3 minutes is our response time in most cases. We were fortunate in that one. We had 2 officers that were right there, and he still got 3 people. And if he would have turned the guns toward other people, he would have got a lot more than that. We were fortunate there. We were very fortunate there. So, all right. Denial. Don't deny. You hear gunshots, go into liberation mode. You want to avoid. When you avoid, deny, and defend, these are the things we're looking at. Avoid, you have your situational awareness. You've got to be aware of your surroundings. Don't go in where you're mind your thinking and you're just happy to be there and you're oblivious to your surroundings. You've got to be aware of your surroundings. During Christmas time, when you're out shopping, I imagine pretty much everybody here has their head on a swivel at that point, right? When you walk into your car, I think everybody has a head on a swivel during the holiday season, because they know what? Everybody's out there trying to see what they can find. At least I hope you do, because, all right. Avoid. You leave the area as soon as possible. You want to try to get away. If you get away, and let's say they come in here and we're able to get out one of these back doors here, and go out the exit and get out. Now, when you get downstairs, don't stop. When you go out the door, don't stop out there across the street and sit there and look back in. Go on down there to McDonald's or whatever. Go on the other side of the interstate. Call them and say, hey, I was in there, but I'm over here now. Keep on running. Don't stop. But when you do this, call 911. Call 911. Now, if you got something in your car that you can defend yourself with, well, do what you got to do. But make sure you call 911, give them the best description you can, and let them know what's going on. Also, consider your secondary exit. Say we can't get out of here. Okay, I'd kick them windows out right now. I bet you I can if I got to get out. I can knock them windows out. How many exits do we have in this room? When you walk into a room, your situational awareness, always keep in mind how many exits or possible exits I have. Okay, I can't get down here. I get down here, okay, that door's locked. I can't get out, but there's a room back there. I can get back there and I can shut down the lights and lock that door, right? If I can't get out and I know he's still out here shooting, well, if I ain't got something to defend myself with, I'm not going to come back and face that rifle. This is where you get to the second part of it. You deny. Get back in that room. If you don't have an exit, let's say you have a hallway here. You do have a hallway here, right? That the exits are locked. You have a hallway here, the exits are locked. Okay, there's rooms along that hallway there. I can go in them rooms. I can shut that door. I can shut down those lights. And I'm going to sit there and stay in there. Now, if there's no exit in that room, I'm going to start looking. Let me ask you something. What kind of weapon you got on you tonight? What kind of weapon you got on you tonight? Do you have any weapons on you? No, I mean, being honest. Let me see this. Let me see this. That's a weapon. I tell you right now, he comes through that door, I got a pen. I'll do a little bit of damage, what do you think? That's a weapon. Anything that I don't care if I had to pick up one of these chairs. I hit him in the noggin with it. Fire extinguishers. You got bottled water. Yep, that looks like that's kind of titanium there. That may hurt a little bit. Anything you can grab a hold to is a weapon at that point. But you try to deny them. Lock the doors, turn the lights out. You're out of sight. Hopefully he'll go on by. If he does not, now, put your barricades up. Let me tell you a little bit about, how many of y'all remember the Virginia Tech shooting several years back? Virginia Tech shooting, this one was unique. He went into this educational building at Virginia Tech. He goes in the doors, he has chains, and he locks the doors from the inside on the drawbars with chains. He was going in there to kill as many people as he could, and he was loaded to bear. I think he killed 33, including himself. But he chained the door shut. As he chained the door shut, he came into the first room and started shooting. When he came into the first room and started shooting, this third room over here immediately got up and started throwing desks and shut the door and started throwing desks up in front of the doors. The second room threw a couple of chairs up in the doors, and they went and squatted. This first room he went in, he was going around shooting people, and a couple of them fell on the floor dead. The second room that partially blocked and used a barrier for the shooting, he walked in there and he shot, I think there were 7 in there he shot. Then he goes to the third room. He can't get in there. They deny entry. They will not let him in. So he goes back to the first room, and the folks that were laying there playing dead, he walked around and started shooting them. I think he killed 17 in that room, 17 or 18. And they lay there and playing dead. Well, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but that probably ain't the best idea in the world because he can't come back. Now, the classroom that they denied entry to, there was 23 people in that room, 22 students. He came back to that third room, but all them students started going out the window. Well, the professor had already made up his mind. He ain't letting him in. He held the door, and he was able to get the door open enough to shoot the professor, and he killed him. But every one of those 22 kids was in that class got out because they denied him entry. So what you do does matter. So it does matter. And just because you're in a no-win situation here and I can't get out, he's got me trapped, it ain't the end. It ain't the end. So you got barriers, more barriers, door stops, a door stop. Ever thought about that? Get up there, put a door stop, kick it in the back of the door. It's going to be very hard to open. Better shut off on. Is the mic still working back there? It is? Okay. But your door stops will be a good option. Outward opening doors, think about this. If you have a door, this door opens outward. If you're on the inside, you get a rope and cinch it around the door handles. If you cinch around the door handles and step back and pull, that's going to be very hard for him to open that
Check.
door. All right. Your tactical cinches or a belt, any of these things, these could work. And if you have more than one person, get more than one belt and try to get as low as you can when you start pulling on that door, because that's ways you can deny entry. All right, now, the denying entry is not working. He's coming in the door. Now, I can tell you, at this point, you got to make a decision. He's going to most likely, I can tell you it's pretty much 99.9%, he comes in that room and you do nothing and you lay down, he's going to shoot you anyway. So if he's going to shoot me, he's going to get a fight before he shoots me. He may shoot me, but I'm going to get something in there. Don't go in the corner and lay down because that's where you're going to die. Position yourself and you make a plan when he starts coming through. Somebody grab the gun, somebody else, hey, I'm going to grab this fire extinguisher over here. I'm going to go to town on that noggin. I got a pen in my hand. I'm going to start doing what I got to do there. I'm going to go to town there. Whatever you got to do, you find a weapon, you use it, hey, it's game on at that point. There ain't no such thing of, well, I'm worried about it. No, I'm worried about dying right there. I ain't worried about him. I'm worried about you defending yourself and you getting out of this alive. That's what you should be worried about. You shouldn't worry about nothing else. Everyone in that room, you want to live, so you do what you got to do to live. Because he's the one that brought it to you. You didn't bring it to him. He brought it in there. So he gets what he has coming to him. And make sure you give it to him. All right, tax starts. You got your primary exits. You want to try to avoid. So as you try to avoid, you cannot avoid it. Okay, at this point now, I'm going to deny. I'm going to move in here. Other exits. Are there other exits? Okay, yes, I got another exit. You're going to try to avoid them again. All right, now, I don't have no exits. This just went in a circle. I thought I had an exit. I don't. Now you got to defend it. That's what we're looking at here. You keep moving as long as you can, and you can't, there's no exits. Well, one thing to keep in mind when you get in one of these hallways and you get into a classroom, yeah, you may have a door, you may not have no windows, but is that the end of it? Is there other exits in that? Usually in a classroom, is there another exit? If there's not another door to go out or another window, go in through them ceilings. Go up through the ceilings. You can usually crawl through ceilings and get somewhere else. If it's drywall, I'm going to find something heavy and I'm going to start punching through the drywall. I don't care if I got to kick it. You can kick through drywall pretty easy. Just don't kick where the 2x4s are. That's going to hurt. All right, when police arrive, our priorities is civilian lives, officers' lives, and then the knothead. Our priority of work, our main concern is to stop the killing. We want to stop the people that are injured from dying, and we want to evacuate the area, get them medical treatment. Please, please, if there's a policy in your church or where you work, let's don't get in that discussion with us at that point. Because it ain't going to work out good for you. I promise you it's not. Tensions are going to be high. Now we're no different than anybody else. We're going to have fear. And I'm going to tell you something. If I go in there with somebody who ain't got a little bit of healthful fear, I don't want to go in there with them. Because Superman gets you hurt. And I don't know about him, but I can't move faster than a speeding bullet. So, and I'm going to be honest with you. If it's got Tim's name on it, well, that's mine. It was meant for me. But I ain't catching one for John. That ain't my deal. That ain't my deal. So, you follow the commands, and if it's against what your policy is, we'll discuss that later. Okay, that's something we'll do later. Let's don't get pissed off and get into an argument here about something like that, because it's liable to get kind of ugly kind of quick. So, because everybody, you ever seen the term pucker factor? It's going to be alive and well at that point. So, and that's not a good time to argue. All right, don't make any erratic movements. Show your palms. That's what we like to see. Palms is hand recognition. The only thing you probably do is maybe slap the taste out of my mouth. I can live from that. But palms is proper hand recognition. That's what we like to see. We don't like to see this. We like to see this. If I can see your palms, I know you can't hurt me. Now, you may hurt me a little bit if you slap me, but it ain't going to, I'll live through that. So, like I said before. Medical EMS delays. People need help, and if you want to seek training, there are several places you can go to seek training. Alert has several good things. It's a federal organization. There's several places that you can get training. If you have, I do have some business cards. If you want to pick up one, it has my office number on it. If I can help you, I'll be more than glad to help you if you have a question about that. Oh, sorry. Everybody hear that? I got to say that again. I have business cards up here. If you'd like to get a business card, you can contact me. But work on your plan, your personal issues. Expect mental trauma, most definitely. Develop a critical incident stress management plan and your emergency plan. Study the plan, train your employees, and execute the plan Coordinate it with local law enforcement agencies. We have ways that you can contact us. If you have any questions, we can help you with what you may need there. What you do does matter. And that's pretty much it, folks. I can't reiterate enough, this is something that's important to me as well as each of the officers here. We know that this could happen in our community just like it has others at the blink of an eye. We've been very fortunate as a community, but I want to make sure that our community is aware of some things that will benefit you should this happen. And like I said before, if you want one of my business cards, if I can help you in any way, it has my office number on it now. I'm going to be honest with you, I'm in and out of the office quite a bit, but I will return your call. But if you have any questions about anything. Yes, sir. If there causes disturbance, you can call 911 and we will be in there in a jiffy. Are you speaking of the knife or are you speaking of a knife? Sir.
Everybody, keep your mics on, turn them on. The recording is.
This is where you get into your good Samaritan.
Okay, sir, how do you escort somebody out without getting in trouble ourselves?
How do you escort them out?
Right.
Now, if they've got a knife, and they presented a knife at you and they're squared off with you with a knife?
Yes, sir, or a bat or a weapon or something like that. Without the...
I got to ask you something. I'm going to ask you a few questions here. Will a bat kill you? Will a knife kill you?
Yes, sir.
Will a... Possible. All right, will a gun kill you?
Yes, sir, most definitely.
Okay. You follow me? Your life has to be in danger, or a third party's life has to be in danger. In fear of your life, if you're in fear of your life, and if somebody come at me, and I think probably what I need to refer to is to one of our assistant DA who is here, my man, Mr. Alonzo Whitaker. If you're dealing with force that's brought against you that's deadly force, if you're in fear of your life, you can defend yourself.
Correct, sir? 100%. Or stop a forcible felony. And you don't have to wait till that felony is committed against you to use force. If you have a reasonable belief based on the conduct of that person, and what you got to look at is, what is he doing with a bat in church in the first place? So that's enough for me to say I have a reasonable belief that I need to use force to stop this.
See, he can tell you that. I can't.
First of all, thank y'all for putting this on for us this evening. This has been on our mind for a while. You mentioned about how things can go haywire when that moment happens, and you talked earlier about friendlies being in the way. Can you speak to liability? You know, if we're there and we're carrying and somebody comes in and somebody that is a friendly does get hurt, what type of liability are we under in any instances like that?
All right. Well, unfortunately, we deal in criminal, we don't deal in civil. I want y'all to understand that anytime something like this happens, and again, the assistant DA would probably be a better one to give the answer on this one, but anybody can be sued for anything as far as when there's injuries involved. Are you speaking of a liability standpoint only, or are you speaking of a criminal? Your intent was good, but it went south. Yes, and that's one reason why I was talking to you about when you make sure you get your security team, you need to be careful where you place them, because that's going to be a definite issue if someone does come in there shooting. That's going to be an issue. And, just because somebody says, well, I got a gun license and I got a gun. Well, they said about Forrest Gump, don't you? So, I mean, that's something I'd keep in mind. I mean, honestly, you can't, Lord, that's a scary thought of Forrest Gump with a gun. But honestly, I mean, you got to be mindful of where you place the individuals that's going to be doing security. And what I was referring to is if they're in a sanctuary here, placed out tactically somewhere in here where nobody knows where they are, well, the problem's going to be is if it's here, I've got to come up, turn, and engage. By that time, they're all coming this way, standing up and trying to run, half of them, and the other half of them are crawling. And so now I've got to start juking and jiving here, trying to get up here and shoot. And if you have somebody that's not very retentive on the trigger, well, there you go. You got some issues there. So that's what I would tell you mostly to avoid that is if you're going to have people here that's going to be doing security, most likely if you get some type of engagement, the doors on the sides are probably going to be locked. They're going to have to come through the front doors. I'd have me some folks there that are, they are deacons, but they are armed deacons, so to speak. So, and they'll meet them at the door where that problem does not happen. You're meeting them before you get in there. They get in there, and of course, if somebody's walking up with a M4 in their hand, that probably ain't a good thing to do at a church these days, because it ain't going to be met with warm reception. That's for sure. So, yes.
A lot of people look at the Good Samaritan law as to a shield, and in that situation, it may prevent you from being liable, but it will depend on the facts and circumstances and the reasonableness of you using a weapon at that time. As Tim was saying, there is a part of the statute justification and defense of others, but it always going to be viewed with whether that was reasonable under the circumstance. If somebody starts shooting and everyone in here pull a gun and just start shooting back, then that wouldn't be reasonable. And so you could suffer some civil liability. But say if someone is injured and you are trying to assist as a Good Samaritan, and then you may be shielded from criminal liability under that situation. But it's going to depend on the reasonableness, the facts and circumstances that you're dealing with at that time.
We have one question.
I'm going to be honest with you. If he come to church, started shooting, everybody shot back, I don't think he'd have to worry about your church getting messed with no more. Yes, sir.
Yeah, most of the massacres that I've researched, the crazy is hunted for a place where he was sure people wouldn't have guns and he could go in and kill as many helpless people as he could before the police or someone would show up with a gun to stop him when they would normally commit suicide. Now, one of our churches just a few years ago and in another state was targeted by one of these massacre-prone people. And he stood up, he shot 2 people. And then one of the congregation happened to be a lady with a concealed carry permit. And when he saw her gun, he immediately killed himself after killing only 2 people there. If she hadn't had that gun, it really would have been a massacre. So what I'd like is your comments on to what extent we should consider this for protection of our congregations.
So is your question whether you should allow people in your congregation to carry weapons? Microphone.
Yes, they could be, for example, the security committee, certain people who are known.
Whether you carry a gun or not, is that what you're asking?
Well, they would have to have concealed carry permits. Other people wouldn't know they had the gun there. But here again, even if they had to use it, you know, I'd like your comments on what they should do when the police show up.
Well, I'm gonna be honest with you, if you're not armed and they are, I'm a firm believer in the Second Amendment. I mean, I just am. I like many, and I think more is better. That's me, but, you know.
He wants you to hold the mic.
Sorry, I'm not used to these mics. But that's a church decision that I can't make for you. I think that if someone comes into your church or your business establishment, and we've had several businesses, I'll put it this way, where the suspects have come in and started shooting. And then, the folks in this place that got guns, they started shooting back. Well, if they hadn't had the guns to shoot back, every one of them in there would have died. But they defended themselves, and they didn't. I probably shouldn't say it's my chief. I'll probably get suspended tomorrow. I feel if you don't have a firearm, I feel you're a victim. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. If you have the right to carry and you have a permit, I say exercise your Second Amendment right. I do not have a problem with it. You know, I support it, and I don't have a problem with anybody that does it. That's my opinion. But again, you know what they say about opinion, so.
Well, in Georgia, you have an absolute right to defend yourself or to defend others from violence or forcible felony. The self-defense statute allows that, but there's a number of caveats. You can't go out and pick a fight and then claim self-defense. You can't be the primary aggressor, but there's an absolute right to defend yourself or others from
Or your
forcible
property,
violence.
or-
Or your property, your home.
Yep. Yes, sir.
The likelihood is that the first person to see the shooter is their pastor. The likelihood is that if someone comes through the door armed, the likelihood is that the first person that sees them is the pastor. So what's your recommendation to the pastors in that kind of situation? Doc, okay. Like, I mean, there might be a tendency on the part of a pastor to engage.
I don't know. I saw a movie one time, Machine Gun Preacher. Did y'all see that? No, I'm just saying, if you have a security team, do you have any type of, is there?
Code word.
I'm not telling you to get a pulpit that's bulletproof, but do you have anything in there that could be that's thick enough that could stop anything if it did start, somebody did come direct? Because where you're at, you're right down the center. And a lot of them are like that. And when you come in the doors, you are vulnerable there down the center. I will agree, because usually it lines up with the front doors. So,
But then as far as instructions for the congregation, what would you recommend that pastors would do if a shooter showed up?
well, if you're in the middle of your sermon, you holler out gun. I think that's going to probably get some attention. I don't. I mean, gun. I mean, if you saw somebody with a gun, he's got a gun and get down. I mean, you know, I would think that would work. I don't know. That's something you probably need to work with your security team, and y'all come up with a code word there. But see, that's why I'm telling you, if you practice this and come up with what you need for your security team, that's going to work best for y'all. Of course, that's going to be kind of hard to come up with a code where somebody comes through the door and they're blazing right at you. I mean, you know, if it's brandished as soon as he comes through the door, that's, yeah, you're caught in a rock in a hard place there, big time.
Got one over here. That's the next.
During this whole time, a lot of people been talking about just having like people conceal guns. But I was wondering, do you think it's a good idea to have the fact that people know that, hey, we do have some people with guns and have some of them way visible? Because I did some study in security when I went to college, and one of the things that deter people from actually committing crime is knowing that there is enforcement. Like he mentioned earlier, he said that somebody came in and they started shooting, they saw one person's gun, they immediately shot themselves. Or when other people look for soft targets, essentially like make yourself a hard target so you don't get shot. I think that's a good idea, or you think you just keep it concealed?
You're talking about making it known that you have a firearm, brandishing the firearm?
I was talking about making known that you have one and then having them
Like a holster like this, you mean?
Right. Have where you have some people where they do see them with it, so they know that it's not just a sign on walls that we have guns. They see that guy does have one.
I like it better when they don't know you have them.
Surprise.
Because you go, hey. I'll keep doing this.
Is there any historical data or recommendation for the caliber used in a situation for church security due to overpenetration and potential liability and that sort of thing? Like a minimum, maximum, hollow point versus round nose, you know, that sort of thing.
Oh, you're asking me a holistic question about?
Yeah, inside of the building, most things are going to be close proximity.
Your ball ammo is going to continue to
Microphone.
travel a lot better than your hollow point.
Right.
And
Lieutenant, microphone.
Your ball ammo is going to continue to travel because it's not going to come apart or it's not going to separate kind of like the hollow point will. Therefore, you could have overpenetration there. Yes, you could. There are several good companies that sell ammunition. I'm not going to stand up here and say one's better than the other. I know we use a very good ammunition, but I feel we've always used a very good ammunition. So, you know, that's, all I can tell you is maybe read up on that, and that'll probably give you your best selection there.
What about a minimum caliber?
I like a 9mm, you know. I say potato, you say potato, you know. It's preference.
Let me just add this, Tim, to that question. You talking about over-penetration. The question is going to always be, is it reasonable to have that type of caliber based on what you are potentially facing? And if you have something that can shoot through 5 people and you're shooting that at a church, they're going to say that's unreasonable. And so you have to think about what you're after and how reasonable it is in regards to what I am doing.
Okay, we only have time for a couple more questions, about 3. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I just got a scenario. Say you got a security team in place and they take down, or not take down, but detain an active shooter, attacker, whatever. Got a committee waiting outside for arriving officers. Don't want to get shot when the officer get there. What would you tell them? We're holding them, got them detained. Got security outside letting officers know what's going on inside. I don't want officers come to the door and shoot me. So, but I don't want to put down my weapon and get shot too. So.
You saying the guy still has a gun?
Well,
Did the bad guy have a gun too? Is that what you're saying? He's holding one, you're sitting there holding him, and he's still got a gun?
Well, you say he comes down, he gets way up and power. The gun taken away from him.
Taken away from him. Well, if he's taken away from him, if you keep a distance, I'm hoping he's not going to get you.
Hold on, let me give you mic.
I think the question is, how do we let 911 know who the good guys are when you show up?
Just give them a description, and it probably wouldn't be bad, it wouldn't be a bad idea to have a greeting party for the officer, you know, out there. The gentleman that has him at gunpoint is wearing this. It probably wouldn't be as soon as the officer breaks the door, just kind of drop down and put his weapon on the ground at that point. But you know, I believe you'd probably stand a better chance of restraint. If you've got the firearm from him, you can restrain him with a couple of people, I'm sure. So you should be able to restrain them.
Okay, we have a question right over here.
Yeah, very quickly, you were talking about practicing scenarios. Our team goes out to the range together, and we practice things that might occur of service, such as somebody grabbing the pastor. And for those of you who are looking for something to use, we have it set up with our staff that says, if we start saying, please, please, that tells the pastor or the staff member, we're about to shoot this dude, okay? Please, please don't hurt my pastor. And when we say pastor, he hits the floor, and we shoot the guy. Secondly, you ask a question about how to keep people from getting shot, you have to train your congregation. If you're not on the security team, go down on the floor or you might get shot by one of us. The other thing is that on the 22nd, Columbus Baptist Association is having another one of these type meetings. If you're interested in sending somebody to that, you call Columbus Baptist Association, and we'll talk more about security teams. I'm from Morningside Baptist, and we'll be glad to help you.
In the way of a deterrent, are there any laws that prohibit a church from posting on the outside doors that we do have security with concealed weapons? Can we do that?
Yes. Yeah, you can.
There's no law against that.
See, I'll tell you one thing. Our church, Cascade Hills, they post on there no firearms because we have a security team there, so they do not want firearms in there because we have 10 officers that are working there.
Right. Well, I know that. I want to make sure that there's no law against the church actually posting that,
No,
kind of
that's
like a warning to them to know, you come up in here, we got something for you.
I'm all for it. Gives them a warning, and they don't need to be looking there.
Okay. Is it on? Can you hear me? Okay. All right. In reference, I had something else, so I'm going to be quick. In reference to what he just said, think about it. Do you want a sign in front of your church to say, hey, we're armed? You know, you're going to lose a lot of people, first of all. Secondly, when they were talking about codes earlier, believe it or not, when you go in places like hospitals and everything else, you hear codes constantly. If you ever been in a hospital when they say, Dr. Strong, report to the 5th floor. Dr. Strong, report to the 5th floor. What they're saying is that on the 5th floor, you got somebody violent and we need some help up here. Okay? So you hear codes every single day. All right, so you can come up with something in your church that's similar to that.
All right, last one.
Yeah.
The whole thing is, people don't plan to fail. We fail to plan. And the whole point of this meeting and this training, I believe, can be surmised by saying that we need to point out the benefits of being vigilant and some of the cons that are out there by folks turning a blind eye or becoming complacent. So becoming complacent and doing nothing can spell disaster, but remaining vigilant and planning, no matter what your plan is, make a plan, exercise your plan, and move forward. You'll be a better place and better people for it.
Exactly right. Good, very good. Okay. And gang, what he said right there, one thing real quick. if you have a plan in place and you've practiced that plan in place, it may not work out the way it was planned. But, and usually Murphy's alive and well, so, but if you have a plan in place, you can change on the fly because you've already practiced it, and you can change up a lot quicker than you just kind of winging it. If you're winging it, you're going to lock down because you have had no training. So those are things that if you train, it works.
All right,
I'm telling you, it works.
Thank you all so much for coming, and I'm sure we will have another one. I want you to remember to run, hide, and fight, okay? Thank you all so much.